guys, Moody Fraser here, you know, with my Godfather style speech. This is my video about making a some kind of Strat, the 54 Strat style guitar without breaking the bank. You know, everyone I think would love to have a 54 Stratocaster. I mean, it's the real deal, it's the real thing. It's the first Stratocaster. To me, it's the real Stratocaster. And I think that it's the original one, it's the only really different one. It's the only one which you would recognize from every other year Stratocaster. Actually, there are two ways to make it. You can start with, I started it with a road-worn 50s Stratocaster, which is now it's rare and it's quite expensive. It was not. It was I think 730 euros when I bought it. Now you can't find a Stratocaster like this, because this is a 2008 Stratocaster, so it's the first year when this model was you know, launched over the market. Now it's very hard to find a suitable Stratocaster for making this kind of model. You can do it with a classic vibe Squire. I would love to make a 54 or a 55 with a classic, a 50s classic vibe Stratocaster. And to be honest with you, it's not that hard. You must think to the sound you want to achieve. You must think, focalize which kind of feel you want to have from a 54 Stratocaster. You can watch thousands of videos over YouTube to hear how a 50s Stratocaster, 54 Stratocaster sounds. And trust me, if you try to do that with a, you know, headphones, it's not that special. I mean, it's a great sounding guitar, but you know, it's not magic. It's just a matter of specs. So I deeply modded this one with many parts coming from, especially the wiring from Music Lily, which I'll show you in a moment. The really hard, I mean, the really impossible to find spec is the neck. A 54 Stratocaster has basically the neck from a Telecaster, so it's a very chubby neck. When you look at it, you can easily see that it's very fat, it's very chubby. So there is not a Stratocaster with that kind of neck today, other than a 54 ratio. The headstock was different, was deeper and way more rounded. But you know, I think that you can, just the first ones were made like that. Late 54, you know, early 55 were soft V, and the headstock was you know, much more or less deep, just like the modern ones, and less rounded. So, you know, you can't do the 1-to-1 clone. You can make something very similar. You have not to make 1-to-1 clone, maybe, because it's quite impossible. Otherwise you have to build it by yourself. I would mine is a relic guitar because it's road worn, but you know, you can make it with the classic vibe one, which would be just like brand new, and I would prefer it to be honest with you. Most of the modern Stratocasters, but not the classic vibe, as the butterfly kind of you know, string guide, which it's, you have to change with the button kind of one, because the 54 Stratocaster had much parts coming from the Telecaster, so you must change your butterfly string guide with the round one, the button one. I would change also. I didn't change them over my guitar because this is a Fender, and the tuning machines were just good, well working. You know, they kept they keep the tuning just well, so I didn't change them. I would change them over a classic vibe with a Music Lily Pro ones, which are just the same like Cluson's ones. You could even use the Cluson style lock-in ones if you want to have a better tuning stability, if you want. But if you want to stay just vintage, you can use just the vintage ones, irregular ones coming from Music Lily. They are Music Lily Pro, and they are very good. My bridge is I made an American conversion to this guitar. Today I would not, to be honest with you. But at that time I made an American conversion. You know, the spacing of the screws is different on an American guitar, so I made that conversion at the time. Today Music Lily has a ton of bridges suitable for 10.5 millimeters import guitars, so you can just change the bridge of a classic vibe or a Mexican one, because even the Mexican has the 10.5 kind of spacing. You just have to change it with something better. Music Lily Pro is a ton of kind of you know, bridges way better than the Mexican or the classic vibe ones. The saddles over this guitar are very special saddles, because they are made from hardened steel, just like Leo Fender was doing at the time, and those are a prototype coming from Music Lily. I you know, worked a lot with Music Lily to develop this kind of saddles. We made just some little changes about the shape of these saddles. I have the first prototype, and they ring just like a bell. They will release a complete bridge for both American and import guitars with those saddles, everything made from steel and made with brass and steel block. So you will able to do everything with that one will be the definitive bridge for the Stratocaster. So, talking about the plastics, you know, you have to look many pictures of vintage guitars to make a you know, a good replica, because many people think that vintage plastics must yellow, but it's not true. Most of the plastics which were made white stays white during time. So even if my guitar is relic, my plastics are cocaine white, just plain white. The plastics are the only part that doesn't come from Music Lily, even if Music Lily is working hard to make 54 aged plastic parts. So the pickguard, it's the original one of this guitar. It was very yellow originally. I polished it to plain white. The other plastics comes from a very rare kit coming from Fender, made by Fender in 2014, I think. Which are the 54 plastics. You will never find, I think, these kind of plastics. They are very rare today, but these are made for a early 54 kind of guitar. If you want to make a 54 generic Stratocaster, you can make a late 54 or early 55. You can use just the modern ones, okay? So I have the rounded kind of pickup covers, the tall boy knobs, the football switch cap, and the typical kind of back plate with the round holes. Now let's talk about the real important things, the electronics and the pickups. Those are the real things that gives to your guitar the sound. You can do in several ways. You can really make a clone of a real 54 Stratocaster. So you can search for the specs on an original Stratocaster pickup from 54, which are, you know, you can find them very easily over the net. It's very easy. And you can take a similar specs pickup and place them over and place it over the three positions, because I'm telling you a secret. Vintage Stratocasters had the same pickup over every position, so it was not the same, but you know, it's a matter of tolerance. it should be the same, okay? So you can take just the same pickup according to the original specs, and this is if you want to make a clone. You should also use a 3-position selector switch, because those guitars had that kind of thing, and this is for making a clone. Very early Stratocaster, 54 Stratocaster, had the 100K audio potentiometers. If you want to make an early 54 Stratocaster, you should use 100K pots, which are very, very hard to find. At least one suitable for a guitar. I made this guitar somewhere between the clone and the ratio, because I used a 5-position switch with Alnico 2 pickups, which gave to me that kind of violin, that kind of acoustic sound. You know, when you think about a vintage guitar, you usually think to something that it's some way subtle, some way with not a lot of output, but it's not true. The 54 Stratocaster had a very, very violent, very, very loud sound. So by the fact that I didn't have the ash body, which was found on every 54 Stratocaster, because it was made just with the wood, just like a Telecaster. I had elder, so I had to compensate with the pickups. And Alnico 2 is original pickups were made in early 54 with Alnico 2, and then they moved to Alnico 3. So I choose an Alnico 2 to compensate for the lack of ash. Okay. So these are 3 Roswells which were sold by Music Lily some time ago. Now they are about to launch the revival pickups, which are Alnico 3 54 model, which are very, very I think similar to the original kind of sound. They are every kind of modern pickup set, as the center pickup wound, they call them RWRP, so they are wound in the opposite direction to the other 2 ones. And the polarity is inverted to have the noise cancelling kind of feature in the middle positions. I have to tell you that I don't like pickups, the sets made like that. I have many of them, but I discovered that having the same polarity over the 3 pickups makes the guitar sound different. I don't know why. Maybe it's a magnetic field kind of, you know, thing, but I think that they sound different without the reverse wound, reverse polarity center pickup. So it's a choice of yours. I used 3 CTS pots from Music Lily, which were just like the ones found over the most of the 50 of the guitars. At that time, the Fender was using Stackpole potentiometers, which are impossible to find, so I had to use the CTS ones, which are just perfect. And those pots are you can find those kind of pots over Music Lily shops. The tone capacity. The tone cup is a 100 nanofarad or 0.1 microfarad. Orange drop coming from Music Lily. All the cables are vintage cloth wire, cloth covered pushback wires, just like the vintage one. I also because and this depends from your you know, level of mental illness. I tried to copy the positions of the wires just like the originals. Another little secret that I can tell you is that Leo Fender was not soldering the ground wire coming from the tremolo glue to the back of the volume pot, but he was soldering it to the output jack. It makes no difference, okay? It's the same thing, but it depends by your mental illness, I think. The selector switch, it's the definitive one, I think, because it's a CRL 5-position selector switch, just like the one you were using over those pre-CBS guitars. It works flawlessly, and it's coming from Music Lily. You can do anything you want to do. It was a song. Yes, it was a Queen song. Anyway, you can do things depending by your mental illness. I told you that you can do the same thing from a classic vibe or a Fender Roadburn like I did, but keep in mind that the very thing that makes the sound of this kind of guitar is the electronics. Is the wiring, are the pickups, so keep in mind that you have to pay attention to that. Choosing the right pickups for this kind of instrument, it's the key to have you know, a good sounding and, you know, a guitar that makes you feel that you made a 54 inspired guitar, okay? So this is my 54. It was a 56 when she was born. I think that the Roadburn was a 56 inspired guitar. So here you can make a 54 Stratocaster. And that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you liked it. So see ya.